Hello, I am Dr. Susan Harper. I oversee multicultural programs and student activities here at the University of North Texas at Dallas. I use she, her pronouns, please, and I am a cisgender bisexual woman, which means that I identify with the gender I was assigned at birth, and I have had relationships with people whose gender is like mine and people whose gender is not like mine. And I have been out as a part of the LGBTQ community since 1993. I tell people I had the easiest coming out experience ever because I was going to University of North Texas in Denton in the early 90s. And that was a campus at that time and still is with a big LGBTQ community. So I was able to kind of ask questions about myself and figure myself out in a really supportive environment. And most of my friends were kind of like, well, okay, welcome to the club, because most of my friends were somewhere in the LGBTQ community as well. Coming out to my family was pretty easy. They kind of went, okay, okay, I guess that makes sense, and then kind of like moved on. I do say I had to have a second coming out when I got in my relationship with my wife, because I had been in a long-term marriage with a man before. And so when I got together with my wife after my divorce, my family had to get used to seeing me in a relationship with a woman, but they really like her, so it was super easy. I have been very lucky to live a life where I can be out of the closet in all aspects of my life, and I recognize that that's a huge privilege for me. And my experience in schools has been just about as easy, probably because I came out as an adult. I don't know what it would have been like to be a young queer person in my hometown high school. I'm from a smallish town in South Dakota with about 13,000 people in it, and there were no out LGBT people in my high school class. Now, we've since found out there were absolutely LGBT people in my class because we all managed to find each other on social media, but nobody was out then. But when my niece was graduating from the same high school 20 years later, she was out as queer and was not the only one in her school. So I don't know what it would have been like then. I think it was definitely easier for her in 2000 and whatever, than it would have been for me in 1993.
Some tips I have for any faculty working in a school is leaving their beliefs at home and focusing on the safety of the students. That should always be their first priority, is to please intervene when they do see students getting bullied. I've seen it when I was in school. The teachers, that would overhear a student being bullied, they would kind of just act like they didn't hear anything, and that poor student was just getting picked at just because they never intervened. So if they stand up for the student, more than likely the bullies will stop bullying, because they have somebody who's of authority telling them not to. Because when they don't say anything, it's kind of almost as they're condoning that behavior.
I think the biggest tip that I'd offer to teachers and mental health specialists and others is, I know people often say like, oh, it doesn't matter to me that you're gay or lesbian or transgender, I just see you as a person. And what I tell people is like, I love what you're trying to say with that. I love what you're trying to say, but when you say you don't see somebody's gender expression, gender identity, or sexual orientation, what you're saying is you don't see this huge part of them. And in the same way that we will sometimes dismiss ethnicity or disability or other identities that are really important. So I encourage people to, instead of saying, oh, it doesn't matter to me, or that you're still the same person that you were, or I treat you just like I treat anybody else, to acknowledge that gender identity and sexual orientation and gender expression are incredibly important pieces of identity, and to learn how to affirm and support students and clients and really anybody in a way that affirms and recognizes the importance of that rather than kind of erases it. I know in the fight for marriage equality, the whole idea was that love is love, right? And yes, love is love. But when you walk through a culture where you don't have federal protections where, especially in the climate right now, there are laws being made to further restrict your rights. It's really important that you know that somebody, especially somebody who's acting as a mentor or providing healthcare or mental health care for you, sees you as a whole person. It varies. I have an active spiritual practice, which is important to me. I meditate, I work with crystals, and I read tarot, and I have community. Um, I think that a faith or a spiritual tradition can be a really important kit in your wellness toolbox if that's something that's important to you. And that can look any way you want. It doesn't have to be going to a church or a temple or a full moon circle. It can look any way. And I think part of, for me, why my spiritual practice is so important in my wellness is my community tends to be very LGBTQ affirming. They're very feminist. They help me sort of live in my values. And so when I'm out in a world that might be hostile to those parts of me, I have community to go back to and ground to. I spend a lot of time in nature, even in the middle of the city. I live across from a great big international airport, but I go find some trees. My favorite way to center, if I can do it, is I'll go walk a labyrinth. There's like 17 of them in Dallas. So I will go find one and walk it. I spend a lot of time with my pets. And I try and make art. And I try and bring some of those things to my job here too, that I can offer them up to my students. And something that I really kind of overlooked it for a time, that as a queer person is so important to my wellness, is to spend time with other queer people.
Exercise does help, just because your brain releases endorphins, and endorphins are what makes you happy, and it's what makes you feel good. Another one also is to find a hobby. Find something you love doing. That could also help you take your mind off of things and when you feel bad or sad. So for example, me and my friend, I'm heterosexual, but he does define gay. We like to go out for jogs. We go to the gym. We like to talk about Madonna, Lady Gaga. She won the Oscar for A Star Is Born. And another thing as well is to find a support system. Have a group of friends. Have somebody who you could talk to, who could understand, and who could be empathetic, towards you, your emotions and your feelings. Stay away from those who are going to judge you or make you feel worse than you already do.
Hi, my name is Teresa Espino. I am a counselor here at the University of North Texas at Dallas. I work in the Counseling and Wellness Center here on campus, providing services to all of our currently enrolled students. And I've been asked to answer a couple of questions in regards to the Adolescent Symposium that's happening, particularly about what should the LGBTQ plus community look for when they begin the process of finding the right college for them. So, coming from the mental health perspective, obviously, I would encourage students to look at the services that are offered to students, because what I've come to understand about college and in the population that I work with is that life happens, and that's outside of academics. Adjustment concerns, stress, anxiety, family concerns, breakups, new relationships, things of that nature. So be well informed about your counseling services on your campus, and also making sure that they are going to be inclusive services. So I encourage you and empower you to ask questions about what types of diversity training the counselors have, what does the multicultural competency look like for counselors on that campus, are they a safe zone trained counselor, do they regularly attend conferences or workshops in how to diversify our counseling centers. We have to be well informed about what types of students we work with, and so that's my biggest piece of advice, is to make sure that when you seek services on college campuses and are trying to make the right decision for you in terms of what college to go to, look at the mental health services that are offered to ensure that you're going to have all the support that you need, not just academically but also personally. And as you navigate the different the different identities and different things that you are trying to discover about yourself and navigate for yourself, that you are going to be provided services from a professional who is going to be inclusive, who is going to be supportive and encouraging of you and everything that you are.
About was when you're searching for the right college. When you're searching for the right college, make sure that they have counseling services, and also look to see if they have, like, let's say, like a gay straight alliance club, you know, where you could find a support system within, you know, your college. It's a new environment, so you can meet new people, have new friends, and, you know, so you don't feel out of place or uncomfortable.
Here, and if I were looking for college now, or when I talk to students that are looking either to go from a community college to undergraduate, maybe from high school to college, or from undergraduate to graduate school, and they want to look for a place where they will be supportive and thrive, I think I learned so much in being in the industry. There are questions that I didn't need to know. There are questions I didn't know how to ask when I was 18 that now, with the internet and with the way the conversation and the culture has changed, those are questions that we do ask. And so when I work with students, and also I do some consulting in the corporate world, and I give some of the same advice, is if you're looking for some place that is going to be supportive of you, the internet is your best friend. You go, and the first thing I always look for is the non-discrimination statement. It's important to know, and a lot of people don't know, that sexual orientation and gender identity are not protected statuses at the federal level. So unless you have state laws or local ordinances against discrimination, it is still legal to discriminate outwardly on the basis of orientation and or gender identity in, I think it's 27 states right now. Texas is one of those states. So you have to look and see what the institution has to say. So I look for their non-discrimination statement, and I look to make sure they include sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. I look to see when I correspond with people if they put their pronouns in their signature. To me, that says that they're aware that pronouns are important to people. And we know that simple acts like putting your pronouns in your email signature has an outsized effect on particularly transgender students, but also on LGBT students as well.
Hi, I'm Dr. Melissa Patterson, and I'm a research analyst at UNT Dallas. And my recommendation for students in the LGBTQ community when they're choosing a college is to visit the campuses that they're interested in and kind of get the feeling for it, because you can learn a lot more in person than you can online from a website. Also, know the university's mission to kind of know if they're more inclusive or more conservative. But if you read up on their mission, you can learn a lot about kind of the values of the college. Also, consider different states. On the coast are typically more inclusive schools, and also big cities might be a better option too. So consider your options everywhere.
Toward the school, you should go and meet, you know, the counselors and see, and you could kind of get a glimpse of how they are, who they are, what their morals are, what their beliefs are. And if something feels off about them, or, you know, you feel like they kind of don't like you, or they make you feel uncomfortable or any type of way, you know, even though they have a really good program, I would more than likely, just for your sanity and so you could feel really comfortable, I will go on and search for a different school who has the same program but is more open-minded.
And once you are in college and in your classes, I recommend being yourself with your professors. Don't try to hide anything. Don't try to be someone you're not, because it's going to make you really unhappy. So be yourself, be open, be honest, and your professors will help you out. Also, join student organizations so you feel included on the campus as a whole and not just in your classes.